You have friends, Facebook friends, Instagram mutuals, LinkedIn connections, Discord server mates, group chats that never stop buzzing, a contact list so long you have to scroll, and by every metric you are more socially connected than any American in history. Yet here's the paradox that will make you want to delete every account and start over. The more connections you have, the fewer real friends you actually have. Not fewer connections, but fewer people you would call at 3 in the morning. Fewer people who know your flaws and your fears and your actual self, because you've traded depth for breadth, intimacy for reach, loyalty for likes, and the loneliness you feel is not a bug, it's the natural outcome of a system that rewards quantity over quality, and the data is devastating. The number of Americans with 0 close friends has quadrupled since the 1990s. 1 in 5 of us now, saying we have no one to confide in, while the average social media friend count climbs past 300, a disconnect that is not an accident, but the product of a culture that has replaced friendship with performance. Because the neuroscience is unforgiving, your brain's oxytocin system requires repeated vulnerable face-to-face contact with the same people over time, presence, and eye contact and touch and laughter and silence and the slow accumulation of shared history, and it does not activate for comments or likes or DMs. It gives you applause, not intimacy, and applause feels good for a moment, but leaves you empty because it was never about you, it was about your performance. And the American twist is, we've turned friendship into a transaction, networking and connecting and building relationships for career advancement or status, forgetting that friendship is not a means to an end, it is the end. Aristotle calling it a single soul dwelling in 2 bodies, while we call it collaboration and move on. Scheduling coffee as a productivity tool and measuring social worth by follower counts, outsourcing the most human need to the most inhuman titulares, and then wondering why our chests feel hollow. But here's the reversal that will only fully land the second time you let it settle. The people with the most real friends are not the ones with the most followers. They're the ones who learn to invest in a tiny number of relationships with terrifying depth, choosing 3 or maybe 5 people and pouring into them like watering a garden, calling not texting, showing up not liking, saying, I need help, and I'm sorry, and I love you, without irony, understanding their friendship is not a metric, but a series of small, inconvenient, unglamorous choices to be present, and they accept that this means letting other connections fade. They don't have 300 friends. They have 3, and those 3 would take a bullet for them. And that's not a loss. It's the only kind of wealth that matters. And I need to tell you about Sophia, who had 1,200 Facebook friends and 800 Instagram followers and a group chat of 20 people, and was invited to everything and felt like she was dying of loneliness, telling her therapist, I'm surrounded by people and completely alone. And the therapist asked how many of those people had seen her cry, and Sophia counted 0. How many had she seen cry? 0. How many had she called not texted in the past month? 0. And she realized she had been confusing audience with community. So she deleted all social media for 6 months and reached out to 3 people from her past, not the most popular, but the ones who had once known her. It was awkward, and some didn't respond, but 2 did. And she started having dinner at their houses with no phones allowed. She cried in front of them, and they cried back. And 6 months later she had only 2 close friends, and told me, I would rather have these 2 than the 1,200 I never really had. And the American cognitive paradox is right here. We have more ways to connect than ever, and less connection than ever, because connection requires risk and vulnerability and the terrifying act of being known. And social media offers the illusion of connection without the risk, and an illusion, no matter how shiny, cannot keep you warm at night. The only Americans who escape the friendship trap are the ones who stop counting and start caring, who delete the friend tally and turn off the notifications and pick up the phone and drive across town and sit in silence and say the hard things, discovering that one real friend is worth more than 1,000 followers. And right now your brain wants to defend your connections, but ask yourself when you last had a conversation that lasted more than an hour with no phones and no performance, when you last said, "I'm not okay," and someone just listened. And if those moments are rare, your friends may be strangers with familiar names. So if you feel an impulse to send this to someone you actually miss, not by tagging them, but by sending a text that says, "I miss you, let's talk," that's not about me. It's the recognition that the numbers have lied and you're ready for fewer friends and deeper roots. And that's the first real friendship you've initiated in years. And the question from the beginning, why do Americans have more connections yet fewer friends, has an answer that a second viewing fully unpacks. Connection is not a number, it's a weight, and you cannot carry 300 people in your heart. Now go call one person you haven't called in a long time, that's an order.